Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is disguise. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear the verb disguise used is to mean to give a person a different appearance in order to hide one's identity. So in this particular definition, this giving a person, it could be giving oneself. And many times after this verb disguise, you're going to see a reflexive pronoun. She is disguising herself. They are disguising themselves. That's very common with this verb, right? So disguises can look very different, right? It could be something as simple as glasses. Clark Kent, Superman are sort of famous for that disguise. It might be a mask. It could be makeup, any number of things. A second way to use the verb disguise is to mean to make something unrecognizable by changing the thing's appearance, its sound, its taste, or its smell. I have recently talked to some parents who have tried to disguise vegetables in desserts. So maybe blending cauliflower, broccoli, other things so that you can't really see it. It's not noticeable. It's not in its normal form. So it seems unrecognizable when someone goes to eat it. A third way to use the verb disguise is to mean to hide the nature or existence of one's feelings or a particular situation. So again, this is just very slightly different from the first definition when we're really talking about the appearance of something. And now we're talking about really something we can't see. So someone pretending to be happy, for example, they might be disguising their sadness, their grief, etc. You should know that disguise is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, you're going to drop the E and then add ing to form disguising. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by just adding the letter D, and that's because this verb already ends in an E. The base verb, disguise, ends with a Z sound. So our past tense ending is going to make a D sound. Disguised, disguised. Now let's take a look at some phrasal verbs that use disguise. The first that you might encounter is to disguise as. This means to cause someone or something to look or seem like another person or another thing. Let's take a look at an example sentence. The mother disguised herself as her teenage daughter and went to middle school. I borrowed this sentence from a recent news report. This actually just happened in the last week or so. A mother put on clothing, styled her hair, etc., to try and look like her 13-year-old daughter and attend school. Kind of odd, but a good use of this verb. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to disguise in. And this means to hide someone's identity with clothing, with makeup, or something else. Here's an example. The thieves disguised themselves in masks so they wouldn't be recognized. So they wore something to cover their face, so their facial features weren't identifiable. Both of these phrasal verbs give us great examples of those reflexive pronouns coming between our verb and the preposition. So great for you to see real examples. Now let's continue practicing our verb of the day, disguise, in a couple different verb tenses. Today we're going to talk about the present perfect and the simple future using will. Let's start with the present perfect. We use this verb tense to talk about an action that has started in the past and it continues into the present. Or we might use it to describe something that happened at an unknown or indefinite point in the past tense. So we're not sure if it happened an hour ago, a week ago, a month ago, 10 years ago, and that just might not matter to what it is we're discussing or writing about. To make the present perfect, we need two parts. We're going to use have or has, depending on what our subject is, and then we'll use the participle form of the verb. Let's take a look at an affirmative example. The song's happy melody has disguised its darker lyrics. So here, this is that hidden, conceal a particular emotion or feeling. And what a person is suggesting with this sentence is this sounds like a happy song, but if you listen to the words, it's not. To make a negative present perfect sentence, we need to insert not after have or has. You might hear some people use the contraction forms hasn't or haven't. Let's take a look at another example. These companies haven't disguised how hard the pandemic has been on their business. Here they have not hidden or concealed the truth. The pandemic has been really difficult and maybe financially challenging for their organizations. If you want to make a yes or no question in the present perfect, you should start with have or has, whichever form matches the subject, and the subject's going to come next, and then the participle form the verb. Has he disguised his voice before? So this is asking at any point in the past. Has he tried to alter the sound of his voice so that it is not recognizable? Now let's take a look at the simple future. We're going to use will plus our base verb today. This is really common when people are making predictions or offers. And the nice thing here in the affirmative is that our structure is going to be the same no matter what our subject is. So it's always will and then the base verb. Let's look at an affirmative example. These pants will disguise stains. So this really, I think, kind of ties back to that second definition about altering an appearance or keeping something a bit hidden. Maybe someone is trying to sell you on the idea of buying these new pants. And if you're a messy person who maybe spills things, think like, oh, this is a great idea. People aren't going to see that maybe I've spilled some coffee or some food because it hides the stains. If you want to make a negative simple future sentence, you need to insert not after will. It's very common to hear people use the contraction form won't and then our base verb. And you can see that in the example here. That hat won't disguise your identity. So here this person is really saying, if you wear that particular hat, people are going to know it's you. You will still be recognizable to them. Lastly, if we want to make a yes or no question in the simple future using will, that's the word we're going to start with. We're going to start with will, then our subject, and then the base verb. You can see that in the example sentence here. Will the scammer, or I think this should be plural, my apology. Will the scammers disguise themselves as legitimate businesses? So this is something you might hear about frequently, people calling, pretending to be maybe a government agency or another business, asking you for personal information in order to steal your identity. So you want to be careful about that. Now let's look at some words and phrases that are related to our verb of the day, disguise. And the first word we're going to look at has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation as our verb. It's just the noun form. So the noun disguise can mean a way of changing one's appearance or a way of hiding one's identity. So an example of this, what is the spy's disguise? Right? So here we're asking, is it makeup? Is it clothing? Is it a mask? Is it something else that leads to their identity being hidden. Another related word is the adjective undisguised. You hopefully you're noticing that prefix there, un, commonly means not. So here, this is going to mean not disguised or not hidden. Here's an example of this adjective in a sentence. The fans were full of undisguised joy when they heard the news. So here, their joy, their happiness, it wasn't hidden. I'm going to leave you with a phrase that you might encounter as you talk to people. And that phrase is a blessing in disguise or blessings in disguise. We can make it plural. And really what it's referring to is that something that looks like bad luck, a misfortune, but in the future, it sort of turns out to have a positive effect or some good results. Let's look at an example. Not getting that new job turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I just got a promotion and a big raise. So with this example sentence, right, someone was probably feeling really down and depressed. They'd applied for a new job, maybe they interviewed, but they weren't given it. And so, right, that seems like bad luck, bad misfortune, right? But it turns out they have been promoted and they're getting more money with this promotion. So it's a blessing in disguise. They didn't get the job. They are in a better position now than if they had been offered the new job. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.